Willow Creek, cute and quiet, a forgotten spot on the map. Days were long and sunny with bees buzzing in the air. Nights were cool, covered with stars and the sound of frogs. Something bad came to Willow Creek. Like a secret, something was wrong. Farm animals got scared, dogs barked at the night, kids had bad dreams, their mums did too. The air got icy, colder than winter. He came in the dark, pale, eyes like burning coals. Screams broke the silence. Then, nothing. A silence that felt like a scream. Morning light painted the town red. A bloody stain that wouldn't go away. Fear hid in every shadow. Every face looked terrified. Whispers turned into yells. The vampire was still around. He wasn't done with Willow Creek. Gap 3S. The people of Willow Creek packed the town hall. Their faces showed a mix of fear and bravery. Whispers, like scared mice, scurried around the room. Everyone talked about the strange and scary things happening in their town. The air was thick with worry and confusion, like a heavy fog. The mayor stood at the front, trying to look brave, but his shaky hands and trembling voice showed how scared he really was. He raised his hands to quiet everyone, his eyes searching the room, hoping for a good sign. Gap 2S. "Everyone, please," he started, his voice shaky. "We have to stay calm. We need to figure out what's going on. We need to find the source of this horror." The crowd murmured, some agreeing, some doubtful. The mayor took a deep breath, trying to be steady. "We'll form a search party," he announced. "We'll find this thing and end this nightmare in our town." Bravery slowly pushed back the fear. The townsfolk nodded. Gap 2S. They knew it was dangerous, but they couldn't live scared anymore. Together they would face the darkness that had fallen on Willow Creek. A group of searchers went into the dark woods. They carried torches and weapons. The forest was super quiet. The only sound was their footsteps. Creepy shadows moved all around them, looking twisted and scary. The air got colder, and the trees seemed to move closer, like the forest was alive and watching them. Suddenly, a scream broke the silence. It was so scary it made their blood run cold. It was a scream of pure terror. Their hearts were pounding as they ran towards the scream, their torches flashing everywhere. They found one of their friends. He was pale and dead. His eyes were wide open with horror. Seeing this made shivers go down their spines. Fear grabbed them again. The mayor knelt next to the dead man, his hands shaking. "We can't let this stop us," he whispered, mostly to himself. "We have to keep going for them, for everyone." The group was scared, but they nodded. They couldn't go back now. They felt even more determined, and they went deeper into the darkness. The forest seemed to whisper their names, like it was making fun of them for being brave. But they kept going, holding their torches up high, ready for anything scary waiting for them in the shadows. Back in town, everyone quickly learned the search party didn't come back. Panic exploded. People locked their doors and windows tight, too scared to even peek outside. Willow Creek, once so full of life, was now like a ghost town, filled with a chilling fear of what was out there. Shops were boarded up, the streets were deserted. An eerie silence replaced the normal sounds of everyday life. The town square, usually a place filled with happy chatter and laughter, was now empty and spooky. Inside their homes, families huddled close, whispering prayers and clinging to hope. Mothers held their children tight, trying to protect them from the unseen terror. Fathers stood guard at the windows, their faces white with worry. The mayor came back, his face gaunt and his eyes hollow. He stood on the steps of the town hall, his voice filled with sadness. "We lost good people tonight," he said, his voice shaking. Gap 2S. "But we can't let fear win. We have to be strong, for the people we lost and for each other." His words echoed through the empty streets, a desperate plea for courage. The townspeople listened, their hearts heavy, but a new determination growing inside them. They knew the darkness wasn't just in the woods, it was in their own hearts, in their fear. But together they could find the strength to fight it. The night grew colder. The wind howled through the deserted streets of Willow Creek. But in the flickering candlelight of their homes, a tiny spark of hope started to glow. The town was terrified, but they weren't defeated. And as the night dragged on, they prepared to face whatever horrors waited for them, united by their desperation and their hope for a new sunrise. Days turned into weeks, and the horror just kept going. More and more people vanished, and that creepy pale figure was seen more often. Everyone in town was super jumpy, always looking over their shoulders. It felt like the vampire would never stop its terrifying reign. Willow Creek used to be so lively, but now it was always gloomy and scary. When night came, everything went eerily quiet, except for a scream every now and then, far off in the distance. Families stayed inside, their windows covered with heavy curtains, and their doors locked tight. Every little noise in their old houses made their hearts pound with fear. One morning they found the blacksmith, a really strong and brave guy, dead, 2 puncture wounds on his neck. Everyone was heartbroken and even more scared. Father Gabriel, the town's priest, gave a powerful speech at church. "We're not alone in this fight," he shouted, his voice echoing through the almost empty building. "We have to keep believing, and we have to stick together." Even though his words were meant to comfort them, they couldn't forget the horror hanging over the town. The vampire was always there, like a scary nightmare they couldn't escape. Late one night, a small group of people met secretly. Sarah, whose brother had disappeared weeks ago, was one of them. "We can't just wait for help," she whispered angrily. "We have to find this monster and kill it ourselves." Her bravery gave the others a little bit of hope. They knew it was dangerous, but they also knew they couldn't just do nothing. As they made their plan, the town clock struck midnight. The chimes sounded like a countdown to something terrible. Willow Creek was covered in darkness and fear, but these brave people had a new determination. They were going to fight the evil, remembering the people they lost and hoping to save their town from the terrifying vampire. Gap 3's desperate. The people of Willow Creek went to an old hermit who lived just outside of town. People said he knew about supernatural things. The hermit agreed to help, but he warned them that fighting the vampire wouldn't be easy. Sarah led the group through the dark, twisted forest around Willow Creek. Every step was terrifying. The trees seemed to whisper scary secrets. Finally, they found a small, broken-down cabin, barely visible in the thick fog. The hermit, a thin man with intense eyes, let them inside. "The vampire you're hunting isn't normal," he said, his voice rough and deep like he knew ancient secrets. "It feeds on fear as much as blood. To defeat it, you have to face your worst nightmares." He gave Sarah an old leather book full of strange symbols and writing. "This book has the rituals and knowledge you need. Study it carefully. It holds the key to destroying the vampire." The hermit took them to a secret room under his cabin, filled with charms and ancient objects. "These will protect you," he said, giving them out to the group. "But remember, bravery and sticking together are your strongest weapons." The townspeople left the hermit's cabin with a new determination, holding the book and charms tightly. As they walked back to Willow Creek, the night felt a little less scary, the shadows not as dark. They were ready to face the evil, armed with ancient knowledge and working together. But the vampire felt their new strength and became even more desperate. The final battle was coming, and the fate of Willow Creek was about to be decided. Armed with the hermit's secrets and tools, the townspeople got ready for the last fight. They set traps and hid, hoping to surprise the vampire. The night was scary. Every tiny noise seemed much louder because they were so afraid. Sarah, holding the old leather book tightly, whispered the magic words they had practiced. It felt like something heavy was in the air. Suddenly, an icy wind blew through Willow Creek, and the vampire stepped out of the darkness, its eyes burning with an evil hunger. The townspeople stood bravely, their protective charms glowing a little bit in the dark. The vampire jumped at them, but it got caught in the trap, screaming in anger. Sarah walked forward, her voice strong but full of purpose. "This stops tonight," she said, opening the book to the last spell. With every word she read, the vampire seemed weaker, its body flickering like a candle about to go out. The townspeople held hands, their togetherness creating a wall of light against the growing darkness. As the last words of the spell echoed in the night, the vampire let out one last terrible scream before turning to dust. Everything was incredibly quiet afterward, except for the relieved sighs of the townspeople. They had done it. They had faced their worst fears and won. The sky started to get brighter, the first light of morning appearing. Willow Creek was safe again, its people forever changed by the bravery they discovered inside themselves. As the first bits of sunlight hit the ground, the people of Willow Creek looked around, still breathing hard from the big fight. The vampire was gone, vanished like a bad dream that would stick with them forever. Sarah closed the old leather book, her hands shaky as she realized what they had done. It felt easier to breathe, like a heavy dark blanket had been pulled away. Birds started singing again, their songs filling the trees, making things feel normal again. Families held each other close, crying with relief and happiness. The oldest person in town, his voice shaking, stepped forward. "We fought the darkness and won. Let's remember this day as a sign of our strength and how we worked together." Everyone nodded, their hearts full of pride. Together, they started to rebuild, knowing they'd made it through the worst of it together. Sarah, looking at the sunrise, whispered, "This is just the beginning." Willow Creek wasn't just safe, it was brand new, strong and ready for anything. And as the morning sun covered the town in its warm light, a new story began, a story full of hope and a better future. Willow Creek slowly started to feel normal again after the vampire was gone. The scary feelings started to go away, and everyone felt relieved and hopeful. They promised to never forget what happened and to always watch out for anything strange. Sarah stood in the town square and spoke to everyone. "We faced something very scary and came out stronger. Remember this day and how brave we all were together?" Her voice was quiet, but you could hear how much she had been through. Everyone nodded, their eyes showing how determined they were. They knew the vampire was gone, but the world was still full of scary and mysterious things. People started talking in small groups about how to make their homes safer and get ready for any future danger. The blacksmith, remembering the scary events, offered to make special charms and tools to protect everyone. Children, who were once too afraid to go outside at night, now played happily in the streets. Their laughter showed how peaceful the town felt again. As the sun went down on the new Willow Creek, everyone knew that being together made them strong. They weren't just people who survived something terrible. They were a community ready for anything. And so, feeling hopeful and promising to always be careful, Willow Creek looked forward to the future. They would always face the darkness together.